Hi there, happy Tuesday. I'm First Warren 5 Meteorologist Warren Sears. We have a beautiful summer-like day out there today. No clouds currently in the area. High humidity though. I know you can feel it when you step outside. Definitely, again, that late spring, early summer feel. We've got low 80s across the board this afternoon and higher humidity and a cold front. Those three things important for thunderstorm development, and we are expecting that later this evening. Now, there's one caveat here. There's one factor in the atmosphere that we're going to have to watch out for, and that's something we call a cap, and I'll explain what that is here in just a second, but that could inhibit thunderstorms from getting really nasty, which is what we would hope for, but as soon as we can break that cap, we think storms could get going here and could be really strong, and so we do have a severe risk out there this evening, not just generic thunderstorms. There is a heightened risk for severe weather that we'll talk about as well. Once that front comes in later tonight, you will notice it. We've got colder, much colder air for tomorrow. A huge swing. It's hard to even believe we're going to make such a big swing here in just really 24 hours, less than 24 hours. All right, so let's get to it. A lot to talk about here over the next few minutes. What we're tracking specifically is this evening and into the overnight. First warn is in place as we are expecting strong to severe thunderstorms to fire up, or at least the ingredients are all there for storms to fire up. And I'll show you the latest data here in just a second, but the data all morning are good high resolution stuff that we trust pretty well. It's been firing up storms at some point once we can break that cap. So I think that better chance is after 6 p.m. And then eventually closer to midnight, that severe risk is really going to start throttling back as well. So it's a fairly small window from about 6 to midnight where we could have a couple of those strong thunderstorms on radar. This is not going to be for everybody. This is a fairly localized and scattered event. And again, when I show you our forecast radar, you'll get a better picture of what I'm talking about. But then into tonight, we're going to keep the first warn in place for early Wednesday. And the reasoning being the severe risk falls off. However, if we get some strong thunderstorms to set up and drop a bunch of rain this evening and then more waves of rain and rumbles overnight, that's going to give us an isolated flash flood risk, something that we need to watch for as well. So that's going to be into early Wednesday. That's why the first warn is in place on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it's kind of one fluid event starting this evening with storms and then transitioning over into that chance for some thunderstorm or for some localized flooding. So what we've got going on now, this is current satellite and radar. If you look here, there's basically nothing in the KCTV coverage area. Now, there is a cumulus field across northern Missouri here that you can see all these little bumps and dots. That would be a sign that the atmosphere is getting at least a little agitated. It's a sign that air is starting to be able to at least touch the cap a little bit, maybe break through it a little bit, but not very much. That cap is still pretty strong. And we actually look at temperature profiles of the atmosphere. We have what's called a sounding, and you've probably seen those weather balloons before. What happens, especially on severe weather potential days, they're really helpful for us because they launch them and they get a profile of the atmosphere. How is the atmosphere behaving? What's the temperature profile like? What's the moisture gradient like throughout the atmosphere? And we're still seeing with the recent sounding that just went up, weather balloon that just went up, we're still seeing a pretty stout little inversion, which means temperatures are actually warming with height a couple thousand feet off the ground. That right there is the cap. It's a stable layer. It doesn't allow vertical motion, doesn't allow storms to start to build in the vertical direction. So that's what we're still seeing out there right now. That cap is in place and it is stout. Can we eat away at that cap into this evening? Let's see. That's what a lot of the computers are suggesting that will happen, again, around 6 to 8 p.m., but nothing out there still right now. Now, what's going to help break that cap is the cold front. So right now, we're just kind of out in the warm sector right now. It's warm, it's humid, there's some wind, but there's nothing really driving thunderstorms currently. And so that front should help. That front should help get some air moving up in the vertical direction. And that's what we're going to see focus that thunderstorm potential later on. So again, even though we don't have anything on radar right now, I do think that we break that cap a little bit later on into this evening. So here's what radar is suggesting. Still at 4 p.m. We're holding on to that cap. No storms just yet. That's still a few hours from now. But look what happens after that. cap starts to break a little bit, we think after 6 to 7 p.m., what's going to likely happen is if you can start seeing, here's a way to play along this afternoon. If you can start seeing clouds grow in the vertical direction, and they're not like little flat pancakes, if they can grow and look more like cotton balls or like little cauliflower or something, that's a sign that we're starting to break the cap. So at that point, we should be able to start to get a couple of thunderstorms. They will likely be isolated in nature, so only a few to begin with, smaller storms, but if they can punch through that cap, we do expect them to become strong quickly. They're going to have basically whatever ingredients they want to play with here once they break into the higher levels. So lots of moisture in place and good ingredients, so we need to watch these. If that cap can break around 6 to 8 p.m., kind of around sunset, we need to watch these because they could have all storm hazards possible. I know they're small here, but they could rotate, they could have large hail, and they also could have straight line winds. That's right at onset, right when these kick off. But quickly, they should grow into a little bit more of a line, a cluster that loses the tornado threat. It doesn't fall to 0, but it definitely starts falling. The hail threat is still there, and the straight line winds are still there. Let me back this up because wherever the cold front is going to be very important as to where the storms fire up, where's the cold front, and do they line up on 35? Do they line up on the east side of KC? Do they line up down into Casson, Johnson County? We've seen some variation, and again, that's not that far, 30 miles. So that's the question mark I still have. Where exactly will the front be? Where exactly, or what time exactly can the cap break? And when would those storms fire up? Right now, we're seeing a suggestion of like I-35 in east. So Kansas City Metro still has an opportunity here. But if you live up in like Atchison, St. Joe, Northwest Missouri, the late afternoon, early evening batch here doesn't totally look to be as big of a concern up in your direction. So this would be, I think, Kansas City Metro, I-35, and east. Right now, that's where the guidance is really suggesting we'll get a few of these to form, and then pushes east throughout the late part of the evening. After that, once the cold front continues to push through, we're seeing signs of some back building here, actually, tonight and into the early morning. The moisture content's really going to surge even more overnight with what's called a low-level jet, and that potentially is going to fill in radar more to the north, where the stronger storms, again, are down into Bates, Henry, Benton, Anderson, Lynn counties by 1 in the morning. We could see still generic rain and thunderstorms coming in wave after wave overnight, and then by about mid-morning, I think a lot of this is done. There is a flash flood potential here if those thunderstorms from late this evening and rain tonight track over the same area. That's the reasoning why we were concerned about some localized flash flooding. Do we get storms to what we call train over the same area? And there are signs of that. If that happens, 1 to 3 inches of rain possible. These are going to have a lot of very heavy rain. But if you don't get those noisy thunderstorms and only get the wave of rain overnight, only a couple tenths to maybe a half inch of rain on the table there. So that would not pose a flooding threat. It's an isolated threat, but it is still something we need to take seriously because there is the potential there for 1 to 3 inches of rain in a very short amount of time. It's 80 officially in Kansas City. This will be the first 80-degree day of the year, first 80-degree day in a while. So we have officially hit 80. Look at Maryville. That's the front, 64. Not that far away from here. So everyone else in the upper 70s, low 80s this afternoon. And generally, throughout the rest of today, we'll see that chance for thunderstorms spike probably closer to sunset, 6, again, to 8 p.m., The actual air temperatures will warm a few more degrees, though. So I'm expecting maybe 83, 84 for a high temperature in Kansas City out there for today. Here's a look at your Security Bank 7-day forecast. Want to get you an idea of what's about to come because big changes tomorrow. Your afternoon temperature only 48 on your Wednesday, but it will dry out. There's a stiff wind out there, though, during the day on Wednesday. But that rain and thunderstorm chance is only in the morning. Then we'll dry out. 48. 60 back by Thursday, 62 Friday, and 70 Saturday. So you got some nice days late week. Another front, though, Monday. Yeah, Monday looks cold. 39 for a high, 23 in the morning. And again, normal for this time of the year, 53 degrees. All right, that is the latest update that I have for you on our streaming desk. It is 1:47. We will have, actually, Melissa, Mike, and I are talking through the new data, new forecasts coming out for the 3:30 p.m. show today. That's where you can catch our next forecast and the next updates, both on air and online at kctv5.com. We have written forecasts. We have a free First Warren 5 mobile app. It's a really nice resource to have. Again, all of these places you can find our latest forecasts up to date. We take a lot of time out of our shifts to make sure all those platforms are updated appropriately. So find us wherever you find the most convenient. All right, everyone, thank you for joining me here. Again, Mike and Melissa are your meteorologists here this evening. They've got you covered. They're going to do a fantastic job, and they'll let you know what you need to know and when you need to know it. That's here through the rest of this evening on KCTV5. Take care, everybody.